What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another special Bears training camp edition of the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott Bair. Alongside me, as always, Carmen, Vitali, and you see our special guest, Bears linebacker TJ Edwards, has joined us after the first practice of training camp, yet another first day of school. And TJ, let's just start it off there. Like, what's this experience like? Yes, you've gone through an offseason program, but you have a new defensive coordinator. There's so much new around you. What has this training camp experience been like, at least in the early stages?
Yeah, it is the first day of school. It's, excited to kind of get everyone back in the building and just be around the guys again and just enjoying seeing everyone back, right? And then we go out there in the field and, it's the first day. We're running around, flying around. I thought that just the energy was awesome, right? It's it's one of those things to where normally, those first couple of days there's high energy, right?
Yeah, right.
So I think where we're kind of focused at is kind of sustained energy, right? Keeping that the whole time. So it'll be fun.
Sounds like Dennis Allen was kind of trying to get some of that energy out with all those up downs we saw you doing. He mentioned to us in the press conference that was all about not only training the physical side of you guys, but the mental toughness and working through adversity. Was that a little unexpected today?
Yeah, it's he kind of built this up in the offseason too. Like he kind of showed us the drill, right? It was like it's like we're doing any other tackling drill or something like that. Like he put the tape out there, showed us what it looked like, what hash mark we were on, so we knew it was coming, right? It was kind of like we know that there's this kind of this big thing coming. Once you got done, I think we're all just kind of laughing about it, but we were definitely not laughing during. That's for sure. Yeah.
I can't imagine
definitely
not
not laughing.
heat.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, the farther that you get into Dennis Allen's playbook and you learn it and kind of its intricacies and concepts, are you excited about it being able to accentuate your strengths and bring out some of your best, just what he asks of those interior linebackers?
Yeah, I'm excited in general, right? I think it's an aggressive scheme. It's he wants to dictate the terms, and as a linebacker, you love that, right? To get downhill, go attack, go just kind of shoot your shot and make plays. And I think that's kind of what his schemes in the past have thrived on. So I think, and he's also had really good linebackers play for him too, right? So that's really exciting to be a part of. But again, I think year to year, schemes always look different based on your personnel. So I'm excited to see kind of how we match up and what it looks like. And as we kind of get going and seeing more of what we'll be doing, I think that's when it gets fun, right? That's when you kind of can detail those little things and get to it. Yeah.
Coach Allen mentioned to us that the goal is always to put the best 11 on the field defensively, and in order to do that, then there's a significant amount of cross training that's needed. Noticed, you and Tremaine especially kind of shifting a little bit along that middle of the formation. What is that cross training doing for you, and how comfortable are you kind of learning new positions and executing?
Yeah, and we started in the offseason too.
Yeah.
Like we were doing some stuff in OTAs, playing Mike and Will, and for most of my, through college and my first whatever it is, 4 years in the NFL, I played Mike. So it's not a huge change for me to kind of do both. And the past 2 years I played Will, so I found some comfort in that too.
Yeah.
But I think when you're trying to learn a new scheme, to kind of understand the kind of what everyone's doing and just kind of the grand vision of everything, it's good for us to kind of see both. And then once we get closer to it, I'm sure those things will be ironed out.
Yeah.
You were able to work out your contract extension a couple months back during the spring, but how much of a kind of a weight is that off of you that you're not entering into a final year or anything dramatic like that, wondering about your future, that's already kind of set up? Does that kind of free you mentally at all, and what did that mean to get that done?
It was definitely something that I really wanted to get done kind of before training camp started, before the season started. I felt like I, really tried to go out there and play my best ball every game, and was hoping that the front office saw it that way too. And, they did, which is really cool. I felt like Ryan was super transparent throughout the whole time, just kind of letting me know where I was at, and I was letting him know where I felt I was at, and it was really good communication. But like you said, I think just going out here and being able to just go play, right? I think it's I think I'd be lying if I said it's something you don't think about going into it, right? It's a business through and through. And so it definitely, we can get those things done beforehand. It helps. But for me, like I've been, since I came out into the NFL, it's been year to year for me anyway. So like I know it's a what have you done for me lately league, and you got to go out there and prove it every single year.
Well, and it keeps you in your hometown in Chicago.
Yeah, it's good to be home for sure.
This summer, what was this? You mentioned it was short. I always feel short. What was the best thing you did this summer?
Oh, that's a good question. I went and played Shore Acres in Lake Bluff last Wednesday, actually. So right before camp, kind of like a little send off.
What's your handicap?
I'm probably like I don't have an official one. I should be better, but for how much I play, I should be better. But I'm probably like a 12. So we're working on it. But we went and played at Cole was out there as well. He beat me. So I'm still thinking about that too. But it was a great year. Yeah.
Oh, good.
You have a very experienced linebackers coach. Richard Smith has been around the sun 100 times.
Yeah.
What's it like to have a guy with that type of knowledge? Like, what's he like in the meeting rooms? Like, any funny stories? Is he light? Is he intense? Like, take us inside that linebacker room for a second.
I mean, you think, right? I guess I didn't really know what to think coming in, right? I knew he had some experience. I think the longest tenured assistant coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? He's up there. And he came in first day with so much energy and like so much juice, which is refreshing. It's cool to obviously we got a lot to cover, right? So he's up there rolling, he's kind of getting everything in that he needs to, but he definitely throws a little comedy in there and a couple nicknames and things like that. And he's a good time to be around, but he also knows we got a lot of stuff to get done for sure.
Awesome. Well, TJ Edwards, thank you so much for joining the Chicago Football Show on Marquee Sports Network. We will be right back after this.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back to a special edition of the Chicago Football Show, and thank you so much to TJ Edwards for joining us. Just a quick reminder, we are going to have one of these special Chicago Football Shows every single day through Saturday. You can tune in to Marquee Sports Network or the Marquee Sports Network app or on YouTube or 1,000 other places and catch Carmen and I breaking down the day's practice
from
Halas Hall as we start Bears training camp. And coming straight off of that TJ Edwards interview, that was really interesting. Kind of, he talked about kind of getting in and getting used to what Dennis Allen likes to do.
Right.
That's up downs, sure. It sounds like it's also a little bit of cross training too.
Right. I thought that was really interesting too, because Dennis Allen said, "I want the best 11 on the field at all times," and sometimes that means some shuffling around. And if these guys don't have experience at different positions along the defense, then that's not going to work. You're going to leave some guys out. So he hit the ground running at that cross training. You saw Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards kind of flipping positions in the middle of the field, in the middle of the formation there, and that's something that TJ Edwards said, like, it's really good for him to kind of understand the why behind multiple positions, and you understand what everyone's doing around you, and that kind of makes you a more cohesive defense. And even Tremaine Edmonds, who was again in a different position for much of this practice, still effective.
Yes, he definitely was.
First pass of 11 on 11. Caleb Williams
kind of gifted him
right,
one. But
right to Tremaine Edmonds.
But you still have to catch it. You still have to be in the right spot.
Absolutely.
And I think what Dennis Allen said about Tremaine Edmonds afterward, it's funny because you and I have talked about Edmonds a lot off camera, not so much on, but I think both of us kind of agree that we feel like this could be a big year for him with what Dennis Allen likes to do. And to hear what Dennis Allen said so kind of passionately, that I expect this guy to be a big playmaker. Because, and you'll notice when you come out to camp or you see these guys in games, length, height, speed.
Size, length, speed, those were all things that Dennis Allen said. Like, you're going to hear me talk a lot about that. And those are the things that he values in a defense, and who better embodies that than Tremaine Edmonds.
Yes, he is a massive human being. He takes up a lot of space. And Dennis Allen, he likes to blitz his interior linebackers too. We saw a bit of that from TJ Edwards today. But it's weird. The fan base, because Edmonds makes so much money, they are quick to kind of turn on him if he's not like doing the spectacular. When interior linebackers sometimes do the mundane.
I was going to say, it's the curse of the inside linebacker, where you're not necessarily getting those gaudy stats that outside linebackers are, and you're being pitted up against outside linebackers for Pro Bowl consideration. All that kind of stuff doesn't lend itself to those gaudy, kind of really easy to digest stats. But it doesn't mean that they're any less important to what this defense is doing.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be opportunities here for him to get the picks, or maybe have a sacks in the 3 to 5 range, and that would be great.
That would be
a guy
for an
like
inside
that.
hacker like that. Yeah.
And I think what's happened, and I don't want to get too off on a tangent here, but the tackle stat, and I understand why, but the number of tackles seems to matter less than it ever has.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're an interior linebacker and you lead the team with 115 tackles or something like that, everybody shrugs at that because they're looking for game-changing opportunities or game-changing numbers, and that doesn't really fit anymore. 'Cause, so I think that's also part of it. But I do think the combination of Edwards and Edmonds, I talked to these guys about this a little bit last year, that they really have to be as in mental sync as anybody on the defense.
Oh, yeah.
And to see that partnership go yet another year working together, I think that's only going to help them.
Well, and, TJ Edwards mentioned when we talked to him about the contract extension that he got, it keeps him here in Chicago. He's a hometown kid. And it frees up your mind to not have to think about that and to have that stability. And so you can let relationships like that thrive. But the middle of Dennis Allen's defense, I think, is just so incredibly important because for as much as we talk about 3-4 versus a 4-3, no, the Bears didn't change from a 4-3 technically, but what Dennis Allen really runs is more of a 4-2-5. He's in 100%. That nickel package with the 5 DBs on the field a lot more. He stresses, that press man coverage, which we saw a little bit of today, despite the fact that Jalen Johnson wasn't out there. It was one of those things where the interior or the middle of the defense then becomes that much more important at directing traffic. So understanding what the guys in front of you and behind you are doing is crucial, and to have a very stable tandem in those two guys, I think, is really it's phenomenal for Dennis Allen. What Dennis Allen wants to do.
Well, let's expand upon this theory. This is not part of the script anymore, but I like the conversation. The spine of that defense, if you look at it from the front to the back, is Jarrett and Dexter. Edwards,
who has gotten so much bigger.
So much bigger.
When we went out to practice today, I'm looking and I'm like, who's 99?
Yeah,
because Javon Dexter looks that much bigger, and almost to a point where, like, are you going to ask them to play some nose? Is there going to be kind of, again, it's all very fluid in Dennis Allen's scheme when you talk about the pressure packages and the looks that they're giving the offense. We heard Cole Kmet talk about the looks that they get from that defense, both in
even
coverage
the first
and
day
up front.
Of camp.
Right, exactly. So it's you're right in saying that the spine is so incredibly, it just looks. It looks like it's supposed to.
Right. And then you go back to Brisker and Bair,
right,
and you have strength throughout the middle. One thing I can tell you about those interior players, and from Jarrett to Brisker especially, he's the loudest. They like to talk some serious trash. You could hear that all throughout Wednesday morning, every time the defense made a play, and they made a lot of them.
They did, as often happens early in camp.
True. Yeah, that's an important note, too.
Right.
But the Bears defense doesn't let you forget it.
No, absolutely. I mean, you heard Grady Jarrett yesterday say, like, part of my job to help Caleb Williams get better is to talk trash and to make sure.
That's an interesting theory, but I buy it.
Oh my gosh, they have to give him a tough defense to go against because that's only going to better him as a quarterback, and that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that's the cadence of practice. I was very interested to see that, Ben Johnson being a first-time head coach, he's the one that's making all the decisions about the practice script and all that. But like, they got right into it with one-on-ones, or the ones versus the ones, I should say, in those 11-on-11 periods, which was again went to the defenses.
Right.
Looked better for the defense. We'll just say that.
But to your point, that happens a lot early in camp.
Correct.
But we are still trying to, just as Ben Johnson said on Tuesday, that they're still trying to figure out what this defense is.
Yeah.
And I think he has a tendency if they're going to be a gap team or a zone team. But I do understand his point that he's still trying to figure it out. And I think we're still trying to figure it out too, to see how Caleb Williams is doing. You and I spent most of this practice together and talking about the quarterback and kind of what you were looking for.
Yeah, because I mean, there were some instances where, like, the offense got pulled at one point. The ones got pulled at one point.
Legitimately pulled
off the field by Ben Johnson to go over some things because things were not progressing the way he wanted to. There were some details being missed.
Yes, and then I think Caleb was going to re-huddle, and then Johnson pulled everybody off. The first unit off the field.
It was really interesting to hear Cole Kmet today say, you can't always be results driven, even if the things that we're doing are getting the results we want. If they need to be detail driven, because the process is just as important as the result in this period of time in training camp. So that was really interesting to see that, and just how detail oriented that was so much of what we saw, and what you saw kind of with what Caleb Williams was doing. Because what was really interesting to me, or what stuck out the most to me, was how much more Caleb Williams was under center.
Like
today.
a lot.
He was under center quite
almost
a bit.
Exclusively.
Almost exclusively, because he needs the reps, because that's not something that most college quarterbacks, for that matter, are asked to do. And then last year, there's just no kind of identity to the Chicago Bears offense whatsoever. So Caleb getting used to the footwork and turning his back to the defense, even for a fraction of a second on some of those design rollouts from under center, that gets the play action game going, that gets the boot action game going. He's a very athletic quarterback. He can handle those things, but it takes a lot of reps. And I think that's why you saw, and that's why you always see kind of offenses take a little while to get going in training camp, because they're working through. This is only the second time they've done this install.
Right.
So they're trying, and they're seeing how much they retained from the spring. But that was what stuck out to me a lot, and it seemed to go well, and you want to see that, because that just opens up so much for this offense if Caleb Williams can be effective under center.
Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of watch how these things build up, back to the results versus detail-driven signs of success, is that you may see in a camp report somewhere that this was the catch of the day, a one-handed
Right.
whatever, and they may go back on film and be like, well, this and this and this could have been better to make that more on time and less spectacular.
Or like maybe that wasn't supposed to be a one-handed catch.
Right.
That could have been,
In
in
rhythm.
rhythm.
Yeah.
That could have been like right in the chest. That could have been whatever. Those are the kind of details that Ben Johnson is stressing.
And they're volunteering them.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
which I think is another thing. They're letting us behind the curtain maybe a little bit more, and it's early yet. Nobody's won or lost a game, and we're not to regular season mode when everything
Right.
clamps down. But I think that's also been interesting to hear these press conferences and kind of how they go, and everybody's pretty candid, because I don't think they have any reason to hide behind anything necessarily.
Right.
So I think that's been interesting. Just one other note on Caleb Williams. He spoke on Tuesday and went over his homework assignments. You asked him about that, and one of them was, it was footwork and staying in your playbook, but there was another specific thing about short throws to his left, like in the
Yes.
left flat. And I'm standing next to Carmen, and this is to inside pool, pardon me, but standing next to each other, and we're talking about the homework assignment checklist, and I mentioned the short throws in the left flat.
Yeah, it was during the individual drill period.
And
yes.
then Carmen goes, look up. I think he's going to do it right now. And sure
Sure
enough, he hit a bunch of solidly accurate, well footworked, well executed throws to the left flat.
Yes.
So apparently he was taking his homework assignments, and
He said he
was
worked
able-
on it every single day.
Yeah.
This summer he worked on those throws to his left. He worked on all of his footwork every single day. It was in his playbook every single day. And then even in 11-on-11s, I noticed there was one in particular, one pass to I believe it was DJ Moore down the left sideline, but like in the left flat, and it went for a pretty big gain, and it was very in rhythm. It looked very clean from that perspective. But again, you're not in pads, you're not actually facing pressure, all of that kind of stuff. But still, it's good to see that he's seeing those throws and he's still being able to make them.
We did see Colson Loveland fully dressed out.
Yes, and he was
for the
working off
first
to the
time.
side.
And he was working off to the side, still running routes on air.
Yeah.
We didn't see much of Braxton Jones, pretty much against air early on.
Right.
And that was about it. It looked like Ozzy Trapillo was with the first unit today,
unit,
but going
left
back to
tackle.
minicamp, he and Karan Amagaji alternated days.
Right.
So we can't really draw any conclusions from day one.
No.
And we're going to hear coaches a bunch say that we're going to mishmash with teams and stuff like that. And it's too early for a depth chart. The one other thing that I did want to bring up is Luther Burton.
Yeah.
The second-round draft pick, number 39 overall, who had been out since rookie minicamp. It was like a deep shot, and he went up. He actually made a really good catch and kind of fell on the ball. And we don't really know the nature of his injury. They don't have to volunteer them. But everything we'd heard after minicamp was that there was extreme confidence that he was going to be able to come back and start training camp on time. We didn't see him. Now, we didn't have access to Ben Johnson to ask that question today. But I guess bigger picture, look, it's let's see, July 23rd. Freak out a meter. Where is it?
I don't know that there's, I'm not freaking out necessarily, but I
feel like it's pretty low now.
It is, but at the same time, is it? Because Is it?
Right.
Ben Johnson, though, talked in the spring about him missing those reps and how
He did.
crucial that is because Caleb Williams was there for all of rookie minicamp in addition to mandatory minicamp. Caleb Williams was here all throughout the spring, was here for the entire offseason program. He was getting reps with receivers in that time. One of those receivers is not Luther Burden, and I really appreciate Ben Johnson for saying, being really transparent with us, saying, like, that's a big deal. Missing those reps is a big deal. I can't tell you that things are going to be okay or that he's going to reach, the potential that they wanted for him in this first year because he's missing out on the rapport that comes with getting those reps with his quarterback. Because if you want this rhythm-based offense, if you want Caleb Williams to be anticipatory and to be the guy that's leading an offense down the field, in a very methodical way like you do in a Ben Johnson offense, you need to trust that your receivers are going to be where they're supposed to be. You need to have a feel for your receivers being where they're supposed to be, and you can't do that without reps. So the more reps that Luther Burden misses, the harder it's going to be to prove to Caleb Williams or to get that rapport with Caleb Williams that will result in then time on the field.
And playing receiver as a rookie is so hard anyway.
It is.
It's a mental thing. It's a timing thing. It's a precision
The
thing.
speed
And
of
then you have to
everything, the
catch
DBs
ball.
you're going against.
Yeah, and everything is about disrupting your timing.
Correct.
And especially against this Dennis Allen defense, and it's one of those things where reps matter. Another thing is that, look, Luther Burden is a dynamic talent. The Bears will be better for having his talent available to them.
Right.
They aren't desperate for it.
No,
This
it's
is
a deep
not
room.
Right. This is not a team that can't survive or is waiting for their number 2 receiver to get off of injury.
Right.
And let's not forget, and I know he's not a household name, but Alameda Zacchaeus can play some football.
Sure.
Everywhere he goes,
Right.
Atlanta, Philadelphia, Washington, he finds a way to make an impact.
Pretty darn good wide receiver 3.
Right, and he's a slot receiver.
Yeah.
And that room is deeper, and they've got tight ends that can play in the
I was going to
slot.
say, yep.
And look, I still believe, and nothing would ever shake my long-term outlook on Luther Burden, but I'm just saying that this is a unique situation for
Right.
all the reasons that we're talking about. Again, Fregaometer is at blue. It's at the bottom
Right.
because it's so early. It's
Right.
July. But if it's August 10th,
Yeah.
we pass the joint practice, and maybe that won't happen. Maybe we'll be sitting here tomorrow.
And he'll be out
he
there,
will have
yeah.
practiced, and it's a one-day thing. We're just at a point where we didn't know and we didn't have access to an individual that could give us an update. So that's kind of the injury status updates, except I guess Jalen Johnson. Dennis Allen did kind of speak to him missing it.
Yeah, he doesn't seem overly concerned.
No.
But especially because Jalen is a veteran. But, I mean, there's a case to be made that Jalen Johnson is the best player on this team, as we've talked about. And especially, and I think this goes for Luther Burden as well, they're installing 2 new systems on offense and defense. And so it's not just getting up to speed with perhaps a system that you already know because you've been here a while and you're a vet like Jalen Johnson. That doesn't matter. This is a new defensive coordinator. This is a new scheme. There's new expectations. You have a new role. And missing time during that is hard. It's going to be hard. It's just going to make the learning curve that much bigger when the bullets are live and you are back in the lineup. So that's kind of my biggest concern when it comes to talking about these injuries, because it's not, I mean, in the case of Luther Burden, it's doubly hard because he's a rookie.
Yeah.
But even in the case of Jalen Johnson, this is a system that he has not played in yet. So you have to have those reps in order to fully understand. And again, like TJ Edwards told us, know what's going on around you, know what those guys are responsible for so that you guys can work cohesively. When you don't have a guy out there, it's hard to be cohesive.
Yeah, it just is. But again, still early, and that's the beauty of having these daily shows, is we can really kind of evaluate things in real time based upon what we talked about before, what we saw, and compare it to what we talked about the day before. So it allows us to really kind of get into where the Bears are as they're kind of launching into it. Again, you can catch it on the Watch Marquee app on Marquee Sports Network if you're watching this on a big giant television, or wherever you get your podcasts
On
as
mute
well.
at a bar.
Or on mute at a bar. I've gotten several pictures of me and you.
Also same. I'm like, that's the best way to listen to me. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Please watch.
Since Cole Kmet talked at the podium today, let's dive into that a little bit and kind of what we've talked about before, maybe what he said before. But I thought when he discussed Colston Levelin and the position group, I thought he was pretty good on that today.
Yeah.
Pretty candid that it's part competition and part collaboration.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty pretty candid, pretty fair.
Honestly, and if you're Cole Kmet, you know, he's been underutilized for the last few years in this offense, quite frankly, but that hasn't shaken the Bears' belief in him, as evidenced by the fact that he got the new contract, or he got the extension last year, and also has, you know, a stable place within this organization. But I also think it has to give you faith, if you're Cole Kmet, that you will be utilized, even if Colston Loveland is as advertised, that Ben Johnson knows what to do with tight ends. Ben Johnson was a tight ends coach. And if you look at the Detroit offense last year, I think it was, you know, they used multiple tight end sets at like the second or third highest rate in the league. That's something that Ben Johnson knows how to do very, very well. So yes, Cole's right. It's not an either or thing. It's a both. They're in competition for certain roles within this offense and maybe a workload, but they're also in collaboration with each other, and they have to work together, because there are going to be times that these guys are on the field together and have two separate roles together on, you know, part of this offense, especially when you consider that maybe this run game isn't up to what Ben Johnson would like it to be.
Yeah, it may take some time for that.
I was going to say, it's going to take some time. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, unless you're Roma Dunze, I guess. But you know, they're going to rely very heavily on those tight ends, and I would expect to see a lot of multiple tight end sets. So there's room for both of them on the field.
100%. Also, sometimes you're just fighting for target share with running backs and wide receivers too. And I think Cole Kmet is, from hearing him speak on Wednesday, right? It's Wednesday?
Today's Wednesday,
okay,
yes.
Cool. Yeah, just hearing him speak, that he seems ready for the challenge. And that's what you want out of competitors and out of athletes. And being ready for the challenge, Carmen and I will be ready for the challenge of bringing you Chicago football shows each and every day throughout Saturday, 5 in a row. We're going to be here at Halas Hall with more player guests as well coming your way. So thank you so much for tuning in on Wednesday. We are going to be coming back to you on Thursday.
Yeah,
yet
that's
again,
how that works.
with another show. Please rate, review, subscribe, and thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again soon. See you guys.